Because this channel is named after a really dumb statistic, I thought it'd be a good idea to do a countdown of the 10 dumbest baseball statistics.
Oh, people can come up with statistics to prove anything. 40% of all people know that.
Number 10, batting average. Okay, batting average is still kind of cool. I know it's not really a great stat, but
it's still real to me, damn it!
I still look at batting average sometimes, even though the predominance of OBP and slugging have made it irrelevant. I think for anyone who grew up in the 80s or 90s, you have a reptile brain reaction to seeing a guy bat like 350. We used to have guys like Tony Gwynn, Wade Boggs, George Brett, who would put up gaudy averages year in and year out. I love looking at stuff like this. This doesn't happen much anymore in today's ultra-refined launch angle, plate discipline, strikeout liberal environment.
We used to bat 350 in this country. Now we strike out, walk, or homer.
Number 9, RBIs. Similar to batting average, I have some nostalgia for the RBI, but this is a stat that is as much about how good your teammates are and where you bat in the lineup as it is about how good of a hitter you are. I think a good shorthand for a stat being dumb is if you can excel at it while also being a terrible player. For example, if you OPS 950 in the year 2024, it's doubtful that you're a bad player, unless you're playing shortstop with a frying pan for a glove or something. But not only can you be a terrible player overall and drive in a lot of runs, you can also be a terrible hitter and drive in a lot of runs. Take a look at 1993 Ruben Sierra and 1990 Joe Carter. These guys were bad in the field and at the plate. OPS is under 700, -18 and -14 batting runs respectively. But they stuck in the 3 or 4 spot in the lineup because RBI used to be seen as an indicator that a player had the power to harness the mystical value of clutchness, that a player had read from the ancient esoteric baseball scrolls to now be considered a guy who knows how to drive in runs.
Not everybody knows how to do everything. Driving in runs isn't the only thing.
Number 8, runs. Same deal as with RBI. This is a teammate-dependent stat, but it's slightly dumber, especially in the era of the ghost runner, where you can sometimes score a run merely because you made the last out of the 9th inning. 7, sacrifice flies. Now, nothing wrong with these in and of themselves. I mean, no one's really paying attention to the sac fly leaders. But the way this is factored into batting average is kind of odd. When you hit a sac fly or a sac bunt, but not a ground out to advance the runner, you get to not count the at-bat in your batting average. Okay, I mean, who cares, especially since I just said that batting average is kind of dumb anyway. But why? What is really so much more impressive about a sac fly versus an RBI ground out? And no, I'm not saying we need to start keeping track of the RBI ground out leaders. Number 6, fielding percentage. This one is so idiotic on its face that I don't think people ever really put too much stock into it, but they still keep track of it to this day. Fielding percentage is the percentage of plays you make out of the fielding chances you get, but you can't make an error if you never get to any balls. You could record a perfect fielding percentage while having your feet buried up to your knees on the infield. As long as you don't have any bobbles or errant throws, you would be considered an elite fielder according to this stat. 5, wins. Now we're getting into real bozo territory. The tide started turning on this finally when pitchers like Felix Hernandez and Zach Greinke won Cy Young Awards with middling win totals, but it used to be the stat for starters. Cy Young voters used to have full-on win brain. Look at 1990 for a shining example. Bob Welch won the Cy Young Award with 2.9 WAR, but notched 27 wins thanks to pitching for the Bash Brother A's, who scored runs in droves and had the best closer in baseball. Roger Clemens, meanwhile, did this. Thankfully, wins have taken a backseat to other, better stats, but we're still left with it. It's like our appendix or our little toe. Eventually we'll get rid of it, but likely not for several million years. 4, saves. So saves were invented to give a win-esque stat for relievers, and it really took off. Now, maybe in the days of Bruce Sutter and Raleigh Fingers, when guys were pitching 3 innings to close out games on the regular, it was kind of a good shorthand. But with the refinement of the role, it caused managers to handle their bullpen in a rigid fashion, not using their best pitchers in the highest leverage situations, but using them only in arbitrary save qualifying situations.
Buck, with the season on the line, do you regret not having your best relief pitcher in the game at all and leaving him on the bench?
You could use a Zach Wooden in the 7th or 8th inning and not have anybody to pitch the last inning. So there's a lot of risk taken every inning, every pitch.
Number 3, holds. Okay, how can we do saves only stupider?
Fellas.
You got something? You got something?
Fellas, I got something.
You know, for middle relievers. There's not really anything to say about this. Number 2, runs produced. Okay, this is one that I swear they tried to make a thing in the 90s. I used to see it around here and there, but thankfully it never stuck. This stat was a way to measure the number of runs a player produced either by scoring or driving in runs, without double counting home runs, because a home run counts for an RBI and a run. So it's a way to use RBIs and runs while discounting the value of home runs somewhat. All right. Number 1, game-winning RBI, the touchstone for bad stats. Game-winning RBI was a stat invented in 1980 and decommissioned in 1988. Because everyone loved pitcher wins at the time, they wanted to have a stat to give win credit to a hitter as well. The game-winning RBI was the RBI that led to the win. So a walk-off homer would be the game-winning RBI, or a first-inning groundout to go up 1-0 that you eventually win 6-5 but never relinquish the lead. That's also a game-winning RBI.
That's number 1, round 2.
It was utterly pointless, and luckily the league came to their senses. The final game-winning RBI would be recorded by Mickey Hatcher for the Dodgers in the Game 5 World Series clincher.
Time and again we see the reliance on a proven methodology. A methodology separate from human experience, built upon figures, not feelings, which encourages our dependence on the empirical world, a world with no room for ground rule doubles.
Baseball's answer to a loose cannon.
He's going to have to go to the instructional league to work on his home runs. He doesn't believe it.